Erin, Kellyn, thank you for coming on and joining me and talk about this incredible adventure / maybe a little bit of a tragedy that we're going to talk about here. But this is exciting. Thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and hang out and have this conversation.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So let's start at the very beginning, right? This is probably more your story than anybody else's, so I'll give you the floor.
Yeah. So what happened was on February 5th of 2021, I was babysitting, and one of the dogs of the family was sitting next to me, and I pet the back of him. He growled a little bit and said, hey, I said, hey, like, you're good, like, kind of trying to calm him down. And then he turned around and latched onto my face. I had thought he just grabbed my cheek. Turns out he did not, and he grabbed my nose. So I rushed up afterwards. I don't ever remember how this dog got off of me, which I don't think I ever will. But I rushed to the kitchen and like kind of just had my head down. And I had one of the other family members call 911, talk about like, hey, what's going on? And I was trying to call my mom on my phone. And it ended up that blood kept going on my phone. It locked me on my phone for a minute. I was like, okay, whatever. I'm going to help control this bleeding anyway. And then I tried again after 5 minutes and after that minute. And same thing, wouldn't let me get into it. And I literally yelled out to another family member, was like, can someone give me a damn phone? I just need to call my mom. So I forgot my husband's number at the time because
he was sleeping because he had worked the night before. So he was asleep. So you knew like you could call him, but he's not going to answer.
Yeah. So I called my mom on this phone and she didn't answer because it's a random number. And then I called her again.
I'm not answering random
numbers. Heck to the no.
Well, so many scammers out there.
Right, exactly.
Like, nah, if it's important, it'll go to voicemail.
But
I'll
my
listen
kids
to it then.
know if they call twice, like call once and call twice, I'm answering the phone. If the same number calls me twice, now all the scammers are hearing this. Uh-oh. They're coming back. You're going to get me. Sell me more cryptocurrency. Exactly. So, so she called me twice and I picked up the phone. And I'll never forget that call because you said, Mom, the dog bit me or something to that effect. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. Like your arm, like your arm. Yeah, you're like, no,
my face.
and I said, wait, like part of your face, what is missing? And you said, yeah.
Cause I walked to the bathroom while I'm saying this and looked at my face and was like, oh, there's a lot of my face gone. Cause I thought it was just on my cheek. Because that's like when it happened, that's what I felt was just on my cheek.
Yeah, because the dog came across your, and
more like this, yeah.
And it was weird because like I was taking one of your sisters over to basketball and everything just kind of happened. I remember I was standing in the front and you say that part of your face is gone and I'm just like, I got to go. And I was like, does Alec know? Like, what's going on? I hadn't even realized, like, I didn't know where you were. I didn't know if the ambulance was there yet. And you were... relatively close to where the ambulance would be at that point. So,
yeah,
everything just got weird.
Completely. And I was like, I don't know. I need to, I don't know what's going on. I know I'm probably going to go to a hospital.
And then you told me that the kids were going to be left alone. So I knew I had to get there because I thought if nothing else, I could stay with the kids so that you could be taken care of. And that part of the equation would at least be solved.
Yeah, and then she arrived, and I was in the ambulance. She didn't even know I was still in there.
So the ambulance backed up into the driveway of the home that she was at, and she was in it. And I thought, so one of the kids had a panic attack, and she told me that they might be calling for a second ambulance for this kid because he's panicking. And so when I pulled up, I thought that the ambulance was for the kid, not for her. I didn't know she was in it. And so I'm like over there and I'm talking to the police officers who are on scene like, oh, I can stay with them. They're like, no, it's okay. You know, I didn't know you're there. And I had so I drove over to her house, woke her husband up, put him in my car and took him. Yeah. Because you guys had one car at the time.
We had one car. So like as I'm leaving to get into the ambulance, I like, hey, can I please put my keys in my car? Which is like,
so that Alec could be able to drive your car to the ambulance.
Yeah, which at the time was like not the priority.
No,
she was so chill. She was so chill. She was like, so Kellyn has a background in medical. She was working at Huntley Hospital at the time.
And EMT classes at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So like she was so calm that they were going to take her to Woodstock because they were like, she's fine. And then she breathed out.
Yeah, they said breathe out your nose, and I'm like,
so kind of gross.
Okay,
this is sort of gross. And then the blood sprayed out of the hole that was where the bridge of her nose was. So the entire bridge of her nose, from where you see the scar there to the
I didn't even
middle.
notice them before.
Yeah. So this whole
nose.
part of it is gone. And mind you, this is all happening like worst timing ever, 2021. This is February of 2021. Everything is shut down for hospitals. Not shut down, like they're moving, but I can't go in. And mind you, she's not a minor. Now, to a mother, I don't care how old your kids are, they're minors. So we went to Huntley. I met my friend in the parking lot because she knew something was going down. Alec, her husband, went in with her, as it should be. And I sat in the parking lot waiting to find out what was going to happen, because they immediately, when she breathed out her nose like that, they knew, okay, we can't go to Woodstock. So they took her to Huntley, and Huntley started shopping her injury out. And we didn't know that this is kind of what happens, is that they get cases like this and they're like, okay, this is going somewhere. We can't deal with whatever this is, but we don't know where she's going yet. And so they started taking photos. And did they take a video to be able to send out?
No, they just took photos, and they were like, yeah, we're going to do CT scan and everything. And then they looked at it further, and they're like, okay, so you're going straight to Chicago. Like, you're going out.
They told you at Huntley that you were going to be in surgery that night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They were like, you're going to be under, like, people are going to surround you when you get to Chicago.
Yeah, like you're going to be something they hadn't seen.
Yeah.
And so they shopped it out, and Northwestern Chicago had one doctor that would take her case. And we later found out that same doctor even shopped her case out to like other plastics people, because he does a lot of cancer work. If you have like a melanoma and they carve it out of your nose, this is kind of like that, except the one variable that really did not work in your favor to go into surgery that night was that this was a dog. And like we all know, you know, as moms, like if your kid gets bit by a dog, they usually leave that thing open. They don't like to close it up with stitches because they don't like to take an infection and close it in. That's a bigger problem.
Yep.
So she went down to Chicago, where they said that they would treat her. She ended up in the ER, where they did over 100 stitches. Mm-hmm. And that's a story in and of itself.
Yeah.
Because the person who was doing the stitches was in and out of the room so often that the lidocaine just kept wearing off. So at the end of it, with 100 stitches, she said, stop putting the lidocaine in, just do it. Do it fast and get it done. And so I'll never forget you telling me, like, and now I'm just doing it without lidocaine because I can't. Like, it's...
Well,
so they transferred you from Huntley to Chicago.
Yep.
Was that by ambulance then, I'm assuming?
Yeah, by ambulance, lights and sirens. They didn't obviously fly me out, but like lights and sirens completely down. I was like pissed off in the whole ambulance.
They did say that the weather was not conducive to a flight.
No,
because I do think they would have tried to do that.
Yeah, but I was frustrated the whole time because like they're honking and everything, and I'm like, just move the damn car. Do I have to go out of this myself and tell them? I literally said that to them.
And they're used to it. Like they're used to people kind of not getting the picture.
Yeah, and they're like laughing at me, and I'm like, no, I'm serious. I'm mad.
Get out of that way.
Well, at that point in time, you're in pain. You just want to get there. So however that's got to happen, get it done.
Yeah, and I know that my husband's also like meeting me there, so I don't want him beating me either. I'm like, I should be the fastest one to go down this highway.
Okay, so she shows up in Chicago. Yeah. And they immediately started, well, they brought you into the ER, but they said that you're not having surgery tonight.
Well, so when I went in the ER, I asked this to like both the ambulances as soon as I got to Huntley, as soon as I got to ER, Chicago, I was like, so they're going to like surround me, right? Like they're going to like.
She wanted to know what to expect.
Because I was like, is everyone going to crowd me? Like what's going to happen? And they're like, yeah, for both Huntley, which it happened in Huntley, but in Chicago, it was like, who's this chick?
We don't care.
We don't care.
This is not an emergency to us. Mm-hmm. What they see is probably so, like they see so much.
Whenever you get into a bigger city.
Oh, yeah.
Unless your heart is stopped or almost stopped, that's the priority.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, working in the ER, like, we know. Like, the people in the waiting room don't know what's happening in the back.
No, you got a guy with a broken arm, and he's like, come on, what the hell? It's like, you don't know how many people are back there.
But if you have a guy with a broken arm hanging out...
That's worse.
100%. And so our other daughter that works at the hospital, she says people call all the time to ask what the wait time is in the ER. And they can never, they're like, we can't tell you what the wait time is because we don't know who's going to get in a car accident while you're on the phone with us.
And on the way here.
And we don't know. Like,
right.
It could be 10 minutes or it could be 4 hours.
Right.
You never know.
Mm-hmm.
So you're there. Obviously, you spend the night there. And
I would love to say that was obvious. They wanted to send me home that night.
really?
Yeah, after
Yeah.
all of these stitches, it's 5 a.m. I told my husband, go home. You have work the next day. Go home. I don't care. And they're like, okay, so here's your discharge paperwork. And I'm like,
No.
I'm not going home.
No.
I literally, I'm like talking to my mom and I'm like, can they just send me home? Like, they can't just send me home, right? And she's like, no, you're
Well, actually, legally, if you asked to be admitted, there was some sort of something, I don't know.
like 72
Like you
hours.
had to, yeah. Like if you're like, no, you need to hold me. So they put her up in a room, but they were going to send her home to nobody because we were not there because of COVID. Like her husband went home. I wasn't there because what was I going to do?
I was like, so am I taking an Uber home? Like what's going on?
From Chicago?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was never going to happen. So I was like, no. So, and that's kind of good. Like the pictures, like the next day were so worse because her
Everything swelled
face
up.
was so big. Yeah. And then, so mind you, now you've not had surgery. She has an open wound here that they say you're going to need to go and follow up. Or they said, we'll admit you, the guy's going to come see you. And so the guy did come. I happened to be there the next day. And one of the doctors in the practice came and talked to her and said, we're giving you, was it 17 days? It was like
It was at least 2 weeks.
until we will say, now we can close it. Because they wanted to give it time. You were put on antibiotic. And it was an open wound. Now, the good news is that Kellyn and her twin Kiara, both in the medical field, they did such a good job keeping that space clean and moist. That was the whole thing. Don't let that dry out. If you let it dry out, that skin's just going to die. And you did so good that when they took you in for your first surgery, they said, holy smokes, you've grown some of this skin back.
Yeah.
And how long was it before your first actual surgery?
My first surgery was on the 21st. So a little
the
bit over
5th,
2 weeks.
From the 5th to the, I think it was 17.
Yeah, 17 days. Yeah.
16 days. Yeah. Later, we're back there and they're like, and they knew it was going to be multiple surgeries.
Yeah. They were like, oh, yeah, it could be 5, 6. We were like, what? What do you mean?
Well, then there's surgeries and there's procedures.
Yeah.
And so like they did multiple procedures, but she said 2 big surgeries. And the first one was done so fast. We were really excited. We're like, oh, this is great. Are you kidding me? And then we find out like, it's really because they were only able to do half of what they wanted to do in the end.
Yeah.
Which they did the flap to close her, but
Yeah,
then,
a Riger flap. They took like my forehead skin and like brought it down at first, which created like a huge slope right by my eye, which is why the second surgery to me was like more important because I was like, I am blocking.
there was
some
no
of my
structure
vision. Yeah,
to
there
your
wasn't.
nose either. Like when they put with the first surgery, there was a dip. It was bad. Like it wasn't bad, but compared to what it is now, it was bad.
Yeah. And then the second surgery was to put, literally they called it a bone and muscle sausage into my nose. And that's what this is right here. That's why I can move it like that.
But they took the bone from your rib, so
Yep.
they went in and took pieces of bone from her rib and like made it into a slurry, if you will, and created a bone sausage so that it would have what it needed to
Some
create
structure there is
Yeah.
what you're telling me.
Yeah, so it goes in soft and then like over time would harden. So that's why like it's so rigid here and it's probably stronger than your guys' noses. Sorry, I'm scared.
Just in case somebody wanted to
Yeah.
softball you in the face, you're like, I win.
Don't get me wrong, it still hurts, but
Yeah, well, I mean, at least it's...
Do you got all the feeling and everything up in your nose?
so I trial this like pretty often. I'm like seeing what I can and cannot feel. Like up here, like just feels like I'm touching something else. Like I feel pressure.
like your rib?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, down here I feel it.
That would be so weird.
No, I feel the pressure like down here, but like I don't feel it right here because I just don't have any nerves.
Well, and your nose used to run and you didn't know.
Yeah. My nose used to run. I get nosebleeds like kind of very frequently in the winter, especially when I was pregnant. I was like all the time.
Blood volume.
Yeah, I was like, it goes up so much. And then every so often I get phantom pains. So it's like pains underneath my nose. Oh my gosh, I have never experienced something more frustrating with my nose.
That's like an amputee.
Yeah.
Like the amputees, like they lose their arm, but they still feel like...
Their
exactly.
fingers or
Yeah,
their toes?
yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you can't scratch at it. You can't do anything to relieve it. It's just kind of there, and it's horrible.
How's your breathing?
Completely fine. Unfortunately, now I'm a mouth breather at night, which I'm working to correct. But otherwise, like, totally fine.
Sometimes I do think it's louder. Like her breathing is louder.
Oh yeah, I have. When I go camping on like trips, other people tell me they're like, "Are you okay? Like, you're breathing really heavy at night," and I'm like,
You tell them, I just want to live. I'm breathing because I want to live.
Through my rib hole.
It's a lot harder. I don't think you understand. No, it's actually like pretty much the same until I get to like sleeping and stuff like that. But otherwise, yeah.
I mean, the other part that was sort of weird is that she's an identical twin. And so like immediately her twin was like, and now we're not the same. Like this is now different. And so that was kind of.
Yeah, that was like
just,
one of the.
Like add another weird thing to this. It's like.
Completely.
Oh, she's an identical twin, which actually worked out good because we were able to take Kiara's pictures and be like, this is what she should look like now. And the doctor was like,
oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. I'm like, because I don't think they'd had a case like your case was so rare to start with, but just a case where they were like, and that's the twin. That's what that looks like. That's so sort of interesting.
Yeah. And then we have this like sweet part afterwards that are like, hey, are you guys twins? Like all the time now. And it's like,
now you're back to people are mistaking you for Kiara. And
That's great.
We didn't know. Like, one of the like weird things that happened afterwards in recovery when she still had the hole was that her phone didn't recognize her face anymore. So like the facial recognition,
it was horrible.
She was so mad.
I was very mad.
She was like, "What the heck, Apple?" And that's just something you don't think about when something happens to your face like that. You're like all the weird things that you're like, "Oh, and now my phone doesn't work."
And I didn't want to reset my phone because I was like, but maybe one day I'll be able to do it.
So that doctor, I'm assuming, did a hell of a good job.
We think so. So he gave her the opportunity. So what you see today with the scars, he gave her the opportunity to continue to do surgeries until he said, I'll continue to revise you and reset you. But just so you know, every time you're going back to zero, it'll be red. You'll have red scars for a while. And her scars have gone pretty white. Yeah. But Kellyn's really like hit pause now. Like we've always said, and she's always said, maybe someday I'll go back and say, okay, let's fix this. Because there's a bit still of roughness on the one side that is not symmetrical to the other side that he said he would continue. He goes, I'm never going to be able to give you the nose you had, but I will continue to work until. And so that's great. Like I'm so glad that it wasn't like and I've done as much as I could. So you're done. Because really, like, what Kellyn's pretty happy. Like, we talk about it a lot. Like, she's fine. Like, it is what it is, and it's her nose now. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of nice to know that he was willing to take her.
Yeah, keep going if that's what you wanted.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have a dimple if this
didn't happen.
That
dimple showed up after the accident.
Really?
Yeah. My mom was like, you should get one on the other side.
I was like, maybe we
I've got one dimple too, so.
Was it from a weird accident?
No. Just a crater in my cheek the day I was born.
Yeah, so she didn't have it. So which is like, her twin doesn't have them. So it's sort of funny. She's got one dimple.
I always kind of like dimples anyway, so.
Just one?
Just one.
Try it out.
This is my good side.
That's your good dimple side. Yeah.
There's more texture.
There is more texture.
So let's talk about after you got hurt, you started your first surgery. Mm-hmm. You guys all created something phenomenal.
So we left Kellyn in the hospital that day, actually, after you were talking to the doctor, which we call him Dr. Hotshot. Because he came in and he's like, we can do this and this and this. And we're like, cool, you're so cool. And he was funny because he said the night before, which is when she was in the ER, when he got the call, he was like, I was on call and I was at a fundraiser and I wish I could have left to go do surgery. I hate those things. We're like, bro, you're fun. He was like, I mean, he just seemed like a young hotshot. That's what we called him. We didn't even know his name. We're just like Dr. Hotshot. And so after Dr. Hotshot left that day, I left to go home from Chicago with my friend who drove me up. And I said to her, is this something that people started GoFundMe for? I've never been in this kind of, never thought of doing one. I've donated to them, but I don't, I've never thought. And she's like, I don't know. I think maybe. It was about the same time that we reached out to the lawyer because we're like, is this something that people that people like even talk to lawyers about. We didn't know. Like, we're not litigious people. We're just like, whatever. And so we started the GoFundMe and talked to the lawyer about the same time. Now, the GoFundMe, like, we hadn't said anything to anybody about what had happened. We were honestly kind of in shock.
Yeah, because it happened so fast. It's not something that anybody was ready for. It was just an accident that happened. So you guys, your heads are reeling, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
they're just.
And so my husband, her dad is in Portland too. That's like just add another thing. And it was like February, so it's snowy and it's horrible. And Sean is across the country. I start this GoFundMe and we start just kind of letting the story out because she's in the hospital. She's coming home the next day. And it's kind of like, what are we going to do? There's nothing that needed to happen at that moment. So I started the GoFundMe and started letting the story out a little bit. And it kind of, we were blown away by the response of our own community and people willing to give to you, but also like the letters and the little kids drawing pictures.
Wow, that's great.
It's like some of my favorite stuff I've kept over the years.
Really, like, and I knew I was really, really worried as a mom. Like, I don't know if you knew this at the time, but I was really worried that she was going to get depressed because I was like, holy smokes, her
I think we also like
is not the same anymore.
I think we also like kept it in open dialogue later, like not immediately, but it was like, hey, we need to like keep you doing things.
I knew, like, I'm scared as a mom. I was like, I'm trying to look at her recovery. We always kind of do this where we bring in a lot of people into this team. Whatever we need to do, we're going to see how many people can we get in on her team, her recovery team. And so we started talking about silver linings and I made her, we're going to look, you need to tell me, we're going to share with people every day of your recovery 3 things. Let's talk about 3 things. And I said it on a whim, just like, she's never going to go for this. But I'm going to bring it up, and we're going to see where it goes. I brought it up, and the first day I forced her. One of the things she said the very first day was that the eyesight. We went to the eye doctor that day to make sure her eye was okay, because one of her scars,
right here, super like faded, but it was right here.
Yeah, and so her vision was good. And like that was like the one thing you could come up with that day that you were like, hey, my eyes are unaffected. So the next day I'm like, she brought it up. She's like, here are my silver linings. And every day she would tell us her silver linings and we would share them, and people were, writing you notes and donating to the GoFundMe, having their kids draw pictures. And it was just
overwhelming that way,
in
a great way.
And like, if you've never had to go through something hard where you have to ask for help, you have to, like, it's getting bigger than you. Could we have handled this all hush hush in-house? Yeah. But in a way, as I was trying to protect her by letting everybody know so that nobody would be like, what happened to your face? They all kind of know, like, this is what happened. And not that they do that now, but like initially, like walking through the Walmart or whatever, I would hate for something said to you to be insensitive. That was like, I was just trying to protect her.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
The only time she couldn't protect me was when I finally did go back to work, and patients said it all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, at that point we were really trying to build her up. She was already in counseling. Like she moved really fast through that because we tried to build a team around her to help her get recovery as fast as we could.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So the community gave so much to the GoFundMe that they funded Kellyn and Alex's mortgage for nearly a year.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Incredible. I wasn't off for work for a whole year, but it made it so that like when I go back into surgeries, I didn't have to be like, can I actually take this time off? Like, so.
Yeah, because you needed to. And plus, again, with COVID, not only is she going to have to go back through, but they were forcing her to wear a certain kind of mask that she couldn't wear because of the bridge of her nose being gone.
Right.
So like there's parts of it, like she was actually not even able to go back at a certain point. They had to make you wait longer to get fitted for a different N95 mask. And it was like, I can't wear an N95. It was like a
whole deal.
Yeah,
completely.
It was a whole deal with COVID anyway.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was hard, but I mean, we got through it, and it is what it is, but the GoFundMe really opened our eyes. We didn't know. Like, and I have thought about survival parenting and how it is a horrible and a blessing at the same time, because if you have to live through something where you have to ask for help, that is where you see the hands and feet.
Oh yeah,
That's where it is.
You see where who's there for you, and who wants to be there for you, and
Right.
who will be there for you.
Right.
Completely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like, people who don't have to go through something don't know that.
You know, and I'll say it on the other hand, right? I hope no one does have to find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you do got to find out, that means something tragic happened, right?
Right.
Something bad happened.
It's
And if something bad happened, you when something bad happens, you're going to figure out who's there. And if nothing ever bad happens, then you don't have to worry about who's all going to be there for you and who's not.
But I think we're all going to get to a point, and like, humbleness is kind of one of the things, like, we're all going to get to a point where you should probably let people know, like, and ask for help. Like, that's kind of why we're here, right? To kind of help each other along the way. So I think we're all going to get there. It's just that we've had the rare opportunity maybe to get there sooner than some people as parents. Like,
that's a good way to put it.
We have 5 kids, so the chances that something was going to happen is pretty,
It wasn't slim.
It was, no.
At least it was this.
Yeah, true. Like, you never know what's going to hit you, like the 1 in 5 scenarios in life, and it was this. So who knew? So I think, yeah. So anyway, so we started the GoFundMe. The GoFundMe took off like crazy. We got her going with her surgeries. She ended up back at work, and eventually they decided to start a family, and she got pregnant. Her and Alec got pregnant, and I don't remember what month that was.
September 1st is when we found out.
Oh, right. It was very close to your 2-year anniversary of your wedding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
of 2022?
Yes, 2022.
Yeah. So it'd been like 18 months later after the accident that you got pregnant. Mm-hmm. And I remember at some point in your recovery saying to you, I don't know where this is going, but I know we're supposed to do something with this. Like, meaning, and you knew what I was talking about. I'm usually pretty vague about how I feel things and express them, because I didn't know where God was going. But I knew that there was something stirring in me, like, that was this unease of, like, we're supposed to do something here. Because of what was given, you're supposed to give back. This is going to get bigger than you.
And we've always talked about purposeful pain this whole time. I knew there was a reason why this happened. I had no idea why. And for the first year, I was probably more mad than ever and just like, nope, there's no reason. This is BS. But then, like, later on, when I got to the 2-year mark, I think that's when I was finally like, okay, there's a reason. Don't know what the heck it is.
There was a shift in you that was like, I'm okay with my face.
Yeah. I think it was after my second surgery, maybe exactly when that cast came off, I was like, oh.
I can live with this.
Yeah.
And it was still red. Like you knew it was going to fade back, and you knew. But yeah, so we got to a point, so she's pregnant, and I had said to her kind of early on, something's going here. I don't know what it is. Then we find out it's a girl, and I knew it was going to be a girl because her name for her daughter she had for years since she was. So Kellyn was in Best Buddies, and are you familiar with the program?
I'm not.
So Best Buddies is a national organization that's in schools that pairs a special needs kid with a normal. I hate that.
Neurotypical, whatever you want to say.
Kid, and they do things together. They go on excursions.
So kind of like Big Brother.
Yes.
Kind of like that kind of thing.
But it's in the schools, and
Gotcha.
it's specifically driven towards special needs.
Gotcha.
So Big Brother, I think, is it could be any.
It can be anybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where this is specifically drawn to schools, especially that have a large special needs population. They definitely have bigger chapters.
Oh, I'm sure
of
they
this.
do.
So Kellyn, all my girls have been very involved with Best Buddies, but Kellyn was the president of Best Buddies at Woodstock High School for a couple of years. So she had read a book called The Lucky Few, which was about a family who was adopting, and they ended up adopting a little girl with Down syndrome. The little girl with Down syndrome's name is Macyn. Kellyn told me when she'd read that book, if I have a daughter, I'm going to name her Macyn. And I knew
Immediately. Yeah.
I knew when she was pregnant, I was like, this is going to be Macyn. I know it. Because given like what had happened to Kellyn and the whole thing, I was like, this is going to be Macyn. And the crazy thing is that then January 31st of 2023, there is a mason jar, a glass mason jar. We have them all over our house.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? We use them for everything. On the counter. And I'm like, mason jar. Why? This is too easy. She's pregnant with Macyn. We knew it was Macyn. She did the gender reveal. It was a girl. It was Macyn. I was like, mason jars. And I started texting Kellyn. I was like, what about what is this idea? I have this idea. It's like, I don't know, we could put some stuff in a jar and donate it. And I don't know what this looks like. But at the same time, we found out Kiara had mentioned something about the teddy bear program at the hospital's emergency room dropped off. I don't know what happened there, but
So for those that don't know, explain what that is just a little bit.
the teddy bear program?
What the teddy bear was.
Well, see, I don't know because all I know is it was gone when we got to it. Like, so she said, like, I believe that there was a group that had donated stuffed animals for the kids that landed in the ER for whatever circumstances. Now, sometimes they show up with their parents and sometimes they show up because it's them.
Yeah. Understood.
But it also like shows like the nurses could use it to be like, here, look, here's how you do an IV. Here's how you do this. Here's how you do that.
It was helpful.
You could show on a teddy bear. Yeah. I worked in the hospital too, so I knew a little bit about it.
Yeah, I don't know which organization it was. I don't know if they lost funding. A lot of people were really, really hurt in COVID.
Yeah, when COVID happened, so much was lost.
Right. Yeah. So that program stopped for whatever reason at the same time that I'm kind of like spitballing this idea, and we start talking as a family and had a meeting like, what does this look like? Could we do anything? And she says, we don't have this thing anymore at the hospital. And I was like, okay.
How can we fill this hole?
Yeah. This could be a fidget thing. We could focus on the special needs community that Kellyn has always serviced, all of my girls, but especially Kellyn and Kiara, with this special needs thing. So our jars, jumping ahead, this was not obviously our original prototype. We've been through 3 different jar sizes now. And but our jars are specifically designed for kids in the ER or ambulances and special needs adults.
I'm just going to show it up here. That way
everybody's
got an idea.
So there's 5 different fidgets in there, and we've deemed them to be pretty much the safest fidgets we can find.
There you go. You can pause it and take a picture of that. There you go. Perfect.
And that goes directly to our website.
Exactly. So we came up with the idea. We started talking about it, and that is in January or February of 2023. Mm-hmm. We knew we weren't going to be able to move fast on this because she is pregnant. Like, we are like, this is kind of our family event.
Due in May, pretty gosh pregnant.
Yeah, she's pretty pregnant. And like, we were busy working on stuff we were working on. So she has Macyn, all is well. We come home, we start talking about it again. We knew this thing was going to happen. And then
so from when you decided that you were going to start when you were spitballing the idea was January of 23.
Yep.
You guys haven't done anything with it until
August, September.
That's when
of 2023.
That's when things started. That's when you thought, oh, hey, we're gonna have a mason jar. We're gonna put some fidgets in there.
Yep. We sourced them. We figured out what was going to be safe. We figured out the seal, the label, like the logo. We started working on in between January. Like, some of that stuff we definitely were working on.
Yeah,
but
we had meetings and stuff like
Absolutely.
that.
But things take time to get moving forward.
Well, and we were so distracted by the baby and like this whole new
God forbid
thing that was happening in our lives. Like, we were becoming grandparents. This was kind of a big deal. So we were so focused on that too. But I think it's really from January to September felt like it blew
completely because I didn't sleep.
So at this point, did you know that you were going to start going into hospitals at that point?
I think we knew. We started talking to people that we knew. Thankfully, we had like connections and like throwing this idea at them, which is where we came up with like, the seal is probably a good idea.
Yeah.
The seal that we put over the top, it just says, it's literally a cover your rear end. It just says not suitable for children under 3. Supervise your children during use. It was just something that we added to make it
safe.
Yes.
More safe.
Safe.
Completely.
It's a label.
Here.
But
safe.
Safe.
Safe in the eyes of the law.
Exactly.
Well, actually, it does tell you whether or not it's been opened usually. So that's kind of nice because if you want to keep things kind of clean, in that kind of environment. So it does kind of serve that purpose, which was great. I mean, I remember I was ordering seals in late August, Labor Day weekend from the trailer where I was working at the fair. Like, I was like, we were working behind the scenes, but we were also trying to everything we were doing.
Yeah, you're also trying to maintain a job, maintain families, pay bills, grocery shop, clean the house. I get it.
There's always like about 44 things happening in our house at once.
Yeah.
So, and now there's about 1,044,000.
There's a lot. Yeah. So anyway, so September we started Marengo Fire.
Yep.
We had a connection over there. And Heather Yoder over at Marengo Fire was the first one and to say, yeah, we want to try. Like, I was like, hey, would you try this and give us some feedback? And she's like, yeah, give me 3 jars. And I was like, cool. 3 jars felt like a big deal.
Yeah, because we
wanted them to say yes. We just wanted somebody, because we found that once we get into one hospital, then other hospitals are like, well, they're cool with it, so we'll be cool with it too. But
it was that initial getting into the one.
Right. And Woodstock ended up going first, which I thought was great because we're from Woodstock. So Woodstock went first. And then by December, we were in all 5 McHenry County hospitals. That was a big deal to us because that was the community that basically gave to the GoFundMe. Like that was the community we were really trying to reach first.
And now this is all hospitals, emergency rooms?
Emergency rooms.
Okay.
Specifically. Yeah. So like we are in Harvard, Crystal Lake, Huntley, McHenry, and Woodstock. Those are the 5 in McHenry County. So we were in there by, I want to say it was actually the end of November that we were in. I'd have to look at the timeline, and then we started picking up fire stations. So the Marengo went first. Woodstock we got in January. So there's all these people onboarding, which is great.
The ball's rolling.
Yeah. And as the ball's rolling, more balls start rolling alongside of them, right?
Because people start throwing balls saying, I would like this.
Yeah, right. And we love it. Like we get requests. At one point we were getting them daily.
Yeah.
In January we were like, oh, this is gonna be hard. What are we gonna do? So 5 hospitals. We were in 5 hospitals by December, and today we're in 15. There's about 7 on the list to onboard now.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And 8 fire departments and 4 specialty offices. So there's a great growth.
Okay. So explain how this actually works, right? So a hospital calls you guys up, goes on your website.
Yeah. If you go on our website, there's like a contact us. They fill out the contact us. Then that goes over in our group chat. Honestly, it gets a screenshot. It gets sent over to Kiara, who's Kellyn's twin. Kiara then sends the email. She has an onboarding email and says, hey, when can we set up a call? I want to talk to you guys about this and what your needs are, so we can kind of get an idea of how many jars they should start with. We have bins of jars that contain 40 of these, so that we give them the whole, hefty Rubbermaid tote. And they put them in their closets and they pop the thing. I can use my hands more.
It's not the first time that's happened. It won't be the last.
So they have 40 jars in each one, and certain hospitals needed multiples of that. Like Central DuPage Hospital, I don't know if you're familiar, they're in Wheaton. It's massive. That's a massive hospital. And they have 5 bins.
5 bins of those.
Yeah, they have 200 jars.
And that's just their pediatric ER, because they have their adult ER as well, who goes over and grabs them
some
from
if
there.
they need them too. So yeah, because we've never put an age limit on them. Honestly, like we don't mind if you think you have a patient that needs a jar because they're let's say they're detoxing and they're absolutely out of their mind with their hands. They usually go and grab one. And we're glad.
I bet it works.
I'm glad.
I bet it works.
Serve them. They're not our jars. We don't care. Honestly, if you think, and that's been one of the best parts is like supporting the nursing staff, because we didn't know, but almost every hospital had a nurse that was going to the dollar store and buying things to be able to give kids because they didn't have programming like this. And so just to be able to serve not just the patients, but the nursing staff, because those are the people. It's like when teachers have to buy supplies for their classroom.
Yeah, exactly.
How frustrating is that?
Yeah.
That's what was happening, and nobody talks about it because they don't even realize it's happening, but that's what's happening in hospitals too.
Wow. So then they give an order, it goes to the hospital, and then whoever the nurses, doctors seem like a patient would do good with one of these.
Correct.
Here you go.
Yeah. And that's why we try to lead forward with like our education when we're talking, like our big talk in the beginning. We try to get as many nurses in so that we can be like, hey, these are like, there are so many different uses for this. You can use it for an Alzheimer's patient, detox, kiddos, special needs adults, like all of these things. And if they're not informed of that at the beginning, then they're like, okay, we'll give a jar here and there. Like whatever.
Yeah, Kiara does a really good job with education when she goes in to do the initial drop off. So she's
She
she's
like
not
drops
afraid.
the jar too to show it's plastic instead of glass.
Oh, she does, yeah. And it's everybody's like,
Yeah, she's always like, I'm only gonna do this once and
I'm gonna
just
show you it's okay, because everybody thinks they're glass until
I thought they were glass. To
Yeah,
be honest with
yeah.
You. I didn't know that until you just said that. I was
and
like,
actually,
no kidding.
like the jar itself has been a problem to source. Plastic jars. Who
Now
knows?
the big thing that we got to bring up is Macyn Jars is non-for-profit.
Yep, we're a nonprofit. We got that in November.
Yep, 501c3.
And that was a big deal to us too, because we want people to be able to donate and have that be, a write-off if they have a company that's interested in doing that kind of thing. So we got our 501c3 in November of last year.
That's huge. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just think that's great.
Yeah, it's really been a benefit to us.
It was a really good day.
It was a good day. We're like, holy smokes, it happened.
Finally.
It happened.
So now you guys don't have this big business and a whole bunch of employees. It's literally just a family.
Nobody takes a paycheck from this.
No one
In
takes
fact,
a
like
paycheck.
if there's anything to be said, we've definitely given more time and funds of our own than anything, which is, I think that's kind of how it should be. I've had conversations about different nonprofits, and not to dog them at all, but I find that nonprofits have, if you are still involved in the nonprofit that you started, you will be more successful. Like if you have somebody who's really close to the cause, who's working on it, not that it can't grow. I mean, you're seeing
you guys are growing.
This is going to grow out of our
Completely.
hands eventually, where our hands are going to have to become community hands. And we're already seeing that, and we love that. But I think if we were to like walk away from Macyn Jars and hand it over to a different group of people, that would be really hard to see. I just don't think they do as well.
Well, you guys started it from the ground up. You started
Completely.
it from
Right.
scratch, and
Yeah.
you started it from scratch because of the love that you got.
Completely.
So for you guys, you want to see this thing keep going and building
Yeah.
and getting bigger and getting better and helping more people with your Macyn Jars.
Exactly.
So when you look at it that way, somebody else might come in and do a phenomenal job. But
Oh,
do
yeah.
they have the heart in it like
That's it.
you all have?
There's like that personal connection to why that it's fine if they bring in people, for marketing or whatever, and they pay them. But the why is like such a big deal. Like you really need to be on board with what we're doing and why.
I agree with that. Well, it's a phenomenal thing that you guys are doing.
Thanks.
And I'm sure that all the little fidgets in there, I'm sure you've had 14 different kinds and
Yep.
different
Yep.
shapes and ways to try to figure out what works the
What
best.
can be
and-
swallowed, what cannot be swallowed, what is like too rigid, like we've tested at our, so now we have a building now. That's like a huge
Big
new
deal.
thing. It's 850 square feet, and we're thrilled.
Nice.
Nice.
It's 850 square feet, and one of my daughters, so I have 5 daughters, we probably should have led with that. Kirsten, we call her Shorty because she's 6 feet tall, and it doesn't make sense in our family. But she has a fidget collection that is like unbelievable, and
Completely.
it's at headquarters now on the table, and you can play with all of them. But she's like the queen of this is going to work and fit in the jar, and this isn't. And so, testing out different fidgets and stuff like that.
Oh,
has
I'm sure that
been,
was.
it's pretty fun.
And then everyone at my work also thinks I'm the fidget queen because I have a million at work as well.
That's the other thing. It's like we're finding nurses, especially in the emergency department. I think every person who wants to work in the emergency department has ADHD. And so they have like fidgets everywhere themselves. And we've seen them playing with the
Yeah.
jars that we prototype to them. We're like, hey, what do you think of this? And we find them like pulling on the string, and we're like, oh yeah, you got the ADHD.
That's all right.
It's totally fine. I mean, we are a family of ADHD. We get it. So
Well, it probably brings them a little bit of a
yeah,
break in the monotony
something
too.
to do with their hands.
Completely.
Those ER people that's a different breed of human. It's so fun. Like
Oh yeah.
I would be working in the ER
Yeah?
as a nurse. Oh yeah. Because it's like you never know what you're gonna get.
That's true. Everything's going to be different every time.
and
that
your
somebody comes
shift
in.
could like change at in 2 seconds.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
So
I
this
like-
building, I'm assuming that's where you guys have all the materials. It's
Right
where
now,
you're-
yeah, so-
it's where you're assembling all these things.
So from September to today, all of our packing of jars were either done in my house or at packing parties, is what we called them, where I drove all the materials out to people to pack. So there was a ladies bunko group that packed for us.
Nice.
We had,
They were great.
They were awesome. And we also had like some 4-H groups and the pageant girls from McHenry County did it. So we've had some different groups that we were driving all the materials out to people. So that kind of became a pain in the rear end. And we were like, what can we do to create what we need? Plus, the other thing is that it takes a significant amount of space, like a countertop. And so we knew that if we had a building, we could create a packing table.
Yeah.
And it has recessed bins. It's cool. I could show you a picture. It's amazing. And so people can stand on the other side of the table and assembly line this.
Perfect.
And competitions to see how fast you are.
That's the funny thing. So these packing parties, these people always want to know how long it takes. They are very competitive with these jars. It's funny. We're going to have a leaderboard and a stop clock. It's that big of a deal. Like, if you ever go to an escape room and you're like, what time did we get out? Do we have the record? I think it's like oddly like that.
Or that like Feed My Starving Children, you also have that competition of like how fast you can pack. So I
didn't know that like Feed My Starving Children did that. Yeah. But I have like, do you know what Feed My Starving Children is? That they pack meals and they send them across the world.
Really?
And they were started, I believe they were started in 1987. Because when I started like thinking about how this was growing and looking at like who could I look at, I've been so afraid that we are going to misstep in the growth. Like something along the way, like the expansion side of things. I spend a lot of time thinking about like how can we make sure we don't mess up something along, because you're going to mess up. But like if you can see it and try to like dodge it, great. And Feed My Starving Children was one of the companies, nonprofits that I was watching, because they had people come in to pack, and they brought these community members in, and they have multiple Feed My Starving Children locations across the country, and they pack food and then they send it out. But they have people, especially Christmas time, like you might get together with your family and do Feed My Starving Children once a year. And so that's kind of the model that I've looked at for that aspect of things. And I'm so glad that there are organizations that kind of have gone ahead of us that I can be like, okay.
You can model it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can look at them and say,
that's
okay, this is the steps they did. This is the steps we're at. What's the next step to take? And this is what they did. I don't know if it's going to work for us, but maybe we can take parts of that.
Badly to talk to the people who started Feed My Starving Children. And I found out that the founder had passed away. And I was like, I think he passed away in like 2005. And I was like really bummed out about it, because I was like, man, if I could have just gotten that guy on the phone and been like, what would you have done differently in the early stages of this? Because what they do is incredible. I mean, multi-million-dollar raising to be able to hand that all the way out. And that's incredible to me. And I can just see it. Like I knew early on, this thing is going in a direction that is going to grow quickly beyond us. Yeah.
The way that you guys are going, it's definitely.
Well, I mean,
growing.
we're not a year in. The month of April, we will pack 7,200 total jars. We'll pack 2,000 jars this month. Yeah. And I know. 70.
Wow.
Yeah, like they go out to, like the need is darn near close to what we have. So we're like starting to bring in more and more items at a time to be able to kind of stockpile so that we have what we need when people come in to pack. So it's definitely, it's getting crazy.
It takes up a lot of your spare time then, doesn't it?
Spare time.
Yeah. What's that?
I have had days where I was like, I don't think I've had a day off ever. Yeah. I couldn't tell you when the last time I had a day off was. Like today after this, I will go over to headquarters because we're working on this grand opening thing. I'll go over to headquarters in Stain. My husband is building our merchandise section of our store right now of headquarters, and I'll have to paint that. And so I just have a list.
Where is this at? This headquarters at?
So
and
it's in Woodstock. Yeah. So we're opening the 13th, 14th of April is our grand opening. And so we will be hosting that event where you can come in and pack jars. And we'll have raffle tickets and raffle baskets and merchandise and tours. And Kyla, one of my daughters, is making cookies. It's a big deal, the cookies. Like, don't forget the cookies. The cookies
you have to do a cookie schedule. Don't
There's
forget that.
There's a cookie schedule for the cookie making from Kyla. It's a whole thing. And so I didn't roll my eyes. I just raised my eyebrows to the side. So we are in Woodstock on Industrial, which is a little bit back behind. If you know where Catalpa is, kind of in the Walmart section of Woodstock, there's a road called Industrial. We're back there. And so we are hosting that event, which is going to be hopefully people come. I think they're going to come.
April 13th and 14th.
Correct.
Yes, from 1 to 5.
1 to 5, and it's open house style. So and it is family friendly too. So
Perfect.
When you come in, you get a free raffle ticket anyway. We have so many gosh darn baskets where we're working on.
8, each one of us on the board. So there's 5 members of the board, the 5 girls, and then there's 3 advisors. We each have a raffle basket, and I think it's going to be a good time. I'm just excited to show people all the work that we've done on the building.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of like different pieces and aspects to how we store, like what we think is working, and hearing other people's ideas is also really great.
Yeah, and you're gonna find out too. You're gonna get that all built. You guys are gonna start working. I think, and you go, man, I'd really like to do this over here or this over here.
Oh,
this ain't working for us right there, and it's gonna change probably a dozen times before the end of the year.
Right. So we signed a 1-year lease because we couldn't sign a 2-year lease because we think we're going to grow past this building pretty fast. My husband thinks we need a truck bay in the next building. Like he's like, we're going to need that door because I think we're going to need to bring in shipments that are like
Bigger
by the
bigger.
truck.
Yeah.
right. The 2,000 jars that we have coming are in 13 boxes.
Yeah.
Like just that, if we had a truck that was able to do that, that would just be easier for those people too. So we're buying things at a higher quantity. So we're gonna need more storage eventually, and hopefully like a more permanent spot, because we're doing so much work painting and all the ideas and the stuff that's going on the walls and the pictures and all the work that we're doing. It would just be great to have it in a more permanent location eventually.
But you got to start somewhere.
Oh yeah. And we're so conscious of like making sure that every dollar is really spent on something that needs to be spent on, that I don't want to like jump into a lease that's $3,000 and like I'd have to justify spending $3,000 a month on that when I could be spending $3,000 a month on the jar stuff.
Correct.
No way. I'm not doing that. It matters more to me to do that.
Yeah.
If I can make this building work, if we can stay there for more than 1 year, we're in.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Who knows? And maybe you can rearrange things.
Yeah.
Let's just say this thing doubles grows compared to what it is today. You still might be able to make that building work for the next couple of years.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we have walkways because this ain't big enough. We got to do something different.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And thankfully we have some access to like some storage units that people are like, hey, I got this storage unit you can use for whatever because I don't use it. And that's kind of great too. So we can store some stuff outside. So
it would just be nice to have it all in one spot though.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It would.
Baby steps.
If we could keep it in the office at your house, that would have been great.
It was in our office, which is like 100 square feet. Like it's like 10 by 10 or 12 by 12 room.
Yeah, but you easily grow out of that very fast.
We did grow out of it.
Yeah, completely.
Quickly.
That's why we needed to be where. Yeah. I mean, we're projecting. We think we'll be in 50 hospitals by the end of the year.
That's awesome.
It's crazy.
Right?
I mean,
awesome.
it's crazy, but like we didn't realize like 15 we thought was going to feel like a lot. It doesn't feel like a lot today.
No.
Like we're in 15. It feels like a lot from the standpoint of like we have a lot of pressure, but it doesn't feel like we can't grow. We have to hit pause. We've never, ever said no to somebody who said, we think this would work for us. We've never said no.
We've said, okay, give us a minute.
Yeah.
But
We have had to say.
You're not going to get it tomorrow,
Yeah,
but
we have had to say you're on the list and we are bringing these to you, but this is the date we can because we don't have the jars. It's the jars that hold us up.
well, and you got to remember too, you guys all have full-time jobs. It's not like this is your full-time job.
Right.
So this is something that you guys all do after the fact. So it does take time.
Yeah,
it just
sure.
does. And
Yeah.
I'm sure these hospitals and stuff are patient with you guys. 'Cause
No, they're
it's a
great.
hell of a program
Oh, yeah.
that you have. So,
yeah.
and I'm sure they give you plenty of leeway, especially the ones you're in now, like, hey, we're down to our last box.
Yeah.
Or down to our last 10 or whatever it is. That gives you a little time.
Yep. To get them on the
get-
schedule.
exactly.
To get them out there.
Completely.
Yep. So we're constantly having communication with different hospitals, all the agencies that we're in, then the agencies that want us there. So it's like it's pretty continual. Kiara's job is she's in charge of the onboarding and the communications with all the hospitals. She's our point person there. So her job is pretty intense as far as
pretty extensive. That's
and
for
she does
sure.
the education when she goes there, and she's newly pregnant, so she's of all of us pulling the weight right now. She might be pulling like I keep giving her passes on like you don't need to come down and work in the building. You can just stay there.
There's a lot.
So yeah, and she works full time at the hospital, so she's definitely busy.
Busy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know which one of us is busier. Honestly, it doesn't really matter.
I'm
We're all working on it.
I'm going to take claim. I got 10-month-old.
Whatever.
I'd take claim too if I was you. Sounds better.
10 months. That's easy.
It's the terrible twos you got to worry about.
Oh, great.
Could have had
Threes
twins.
are bad too. Yeah, she had twins first. So.
Yeah, I had twins, so whatever. 10 months. Try 2. You guys were a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's the way it goes sometimes. All right, one more time. The email.
The website?
Your website, thank you.
Yeah. So before we go to the website, people always ask, how can I help? We have a couple streams for people. Like, obviously, you can donate funds on our website. That's macynjars.org. You can donate funds, and we need funds for sure. We buy our jars with funds. We don't crowdsource our jars. But we do have an available option for people who want to donate goods, and that's on our Amazon wish list, which you can get on our website as well. So,
Perfect.
We do see a pretty good split actually of people who want to donate funds and people who want to donate goods. And every person who donates gets their name written on the cards that go inside the jars. So they now say this jar was donated by, and let's say you had a company and you guys wanted to donate $500, we would then give you the equivalent number of cards basically for your jars. We basically take your $500 divided by $2.50, and then each jar gets a card.
Gets a card with your name in it.
Yes, exactly.
That's
So
great.
some people with companies are finding it as good advertising marketing.
That's
for them
brilliant.
as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
If you have a doctor's office, think the interesting thing, like we really feel like you're a captive audience when you get a mason jar in a way, because you're kind of stuck in a hospital for hours. So we're finding not only are parents giving us incredible feedback, nurses are giving us incredible feedback. We got one this morning, actually. I'll tell you about it in a minute. But you're also kind of sitting there looking for something to do as a parent while you're waiting for discharge. So we are finding more people are kind of interested in our site and giving back. We're finding we're getting parents that donate because they got a jar and they had the means to
that's
give
great.
for
That's
10
great.
more jars, which is, that's what's really helping us too, is just like getting the word out, spreading that out further and further.
The big thing is, right, is you're getting new customers.
Sure, and it's a
day.
captive audience, if you think about it, because they're kind of sitting there stuck.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a brilliant idea. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's definitely fun going to things now, and people are like, "Oh yeah, mason jars? Yeah, I just
We
heard
know
about
you,
this."
and you're like, "How do you know
Like,
us?
what?
How did this happen?" We heard about you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because you've had a couple, like, you go to a couple meetings and stuff like that where you're trying to share mason jars with people, and you're like, "Yeah, we know." And you're like, "What?
What do you
How
mean
do you know? You already know about us?"
Yeah.
That's been like your favorite part.
Yeah, that's like one of the things that like just makes me so excited. I'm like, oh, are we becoming a common name?
They're like, I donated. What?
What do you mean?
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So we have nurses reach out a lot, but she was saying that she uses the little mini star inside here to show kids what they do for an IV. Like, she has the kids clean the star, and then she uses the IV itself, or the star itself, to show them like with the flet, because it's kind of fleshy, kind of smushy. And so they've kind of adapted. In different hospitals, we're finding different nurses and different techs are using parts of this jar to really help them understand what's about to happen.
That's awesome.
I know. Like, there's parts of it that like we didn't know what were going to happen.
Oh no.
Right,
And
like,
coming into the future, there's going to be stuff that you don't know that's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been an interesting journey so far.
So far. Excited for the future, though.
Yeah, completely.
We got we're in Loyola, downtown Loyola Hospital, and I'll never forget the day they were like, could you give jars to all of our ambulances? And we're like, yeah, sure. Like, what are you talking? And we find out there's 300 ambulances. 300. Okay. We probably donate 20 jars to per ambulance when we donate like that. And we just found out they had 300. So we went back as a team and we're like right now we have not committed to be able to do that, because how are we going to... That's a month, by the way. That's 300 ambulances times 20 jars per month. Like, yeah. We don't have what we need to be able to scale that fast. So we're piloting them on 120. I think we're giving them 120 next week to pilot to see how fast they're going to go through these and how many ambulance can they serve with this amount and that kind of thing. So that's where it's like the growth could really be exponential. Like,
could be.
It's just gonna.
And once you get into there, who knows at that point?
Yeah, there's been some people who are like, you should go to Lurie's. And we're like, oh, cool idea.
Love the idea. Just give us 6 months.
Yeah, we love.
They have great funding, so we're good.
Yeah, do they have something already? So, yeah, we don't.
Yeah, and that's the big thing that you brought up earlier, too, is
Yeah.
if these hospitals already have something in place,
Yeah.
you're not pushing this in there.
No.
That's fine. Use that.
Yeah,
And
we
you're
would
going
prefer they go the direction they're going already, and we will serve the people that need us. If they don't have anything, then that's where we're at.
Yeah. That's awesome.
We're also
Just
finding
awesome.
like the ambulances too are giving the jars, like if there's been a car accident and the kid is like sitting on the side of the road because maybe mom or dad is fine, but they're, getting checked out, they will give the jars to the kids that are waiting too, which is cool. If they have to sit them in the back of a cop car for whatever, just to keep them safe, they're handing them out too. So we're finding that they're getting multiple uses that we will never know. And that's kind of like, we're just going to let it go. It's so cool.
It is.
Yeah, that's even for the like kids who parents go to the ER and they're like, well, the kid's coming with.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise they're like running in the
room.
halls. They're like doing this and that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they need something.
They're doing kids. They're doing what kids do.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm about it. Like, I'd be cool with them having playgrounds there, but it doesn't really work for supervision. Maybe someday.
Yeah,
So
you never know.
you just,
never know.
you never know. So that's kind of where we're at. We're moving forward. We didn't know we would have a building. We didn't know we'd be serving 15 hospitals. We didn't know that packing 2,000 jars in a month would be normal. We didn't know. It's crazy.
It's awesome.
Once upon a time, God said, this is going to go somewhere. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to say this. This is
Just
going to
gonna
go
roll with it.
somewhere.
Well, it's unbelievable on how something tragic happened and you guys turned it into this, which is
I think that's
awesome.
I think that's part of like why we're here on earth is really I always tell Kellyn, like, you're just a step above in front of somebody else with what you're doing. And if you turn around and grab that person by the hand and pull, that was your job. The reason that you got bit by a dog maybe was to start mason jars, but maybe it was also because how many conversations have you had with people who've been bit by a dog now?
So many. And I've like made connections with people who like have had stuff like this happen, or their kids have had stuff like this happen.
And they don't know what to do.
They're like, how did you get through it?
Yeah.
I was like,
So much therapy.
yeah.
But really,
Therapy
I think we've just taught our kids that if something tragic's going to happen, there's somebody probably behind you who's going to have that happen too. And if you can heal and we can get you to healing, then you can turn around and help that person.
Exactly.
That's what we're here for.
Exactly.
Completely.
And that's awesome.
Yep.
Really awesome. Thank you both for coming over and telling your story and talking about how Mason Jars got started. And it's been a fun one. It's been good. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank
you
you.
guys.
We just thank everybody who's like donated to us, and because we have donated obviously our own funds, but we're just so thankful that the same community that showed up during that GoFundMe is the same community that's coming out now. They're still doing it.
It's great to live in a small community.
It
isn't
is. Yeah. Yeah. It really is. I'm happy. Let's all live in small communities.
I think
where you can serve each other.
the world would be a lot better place if it was.
100%. Exactly.
Well, thank you guys for coming. Until
you.
next time. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right. See ya.
Bye.